Hello. I just wanted to take a moment and explain what the three models of revelation are, those being proportional, historical, and experiential models. The proportional model is very prominent in modern conservative Christians. And basically what it says is the Bible is this word, inerrant, which means it's never wrong. However, that is not to say that the Bible doesn't have some errors. There are multiple texts, there are multiple translations of the Bible, therefore there are some things that just don't match up. For example, the sixth commandment in the King James Version of the Bible says, "Thou shalt not kill." However, the original Hebrew is more accurate to say, "Thou shalt not murder," which implies that the killing of somebody has no reason behind it. While in the King James Version, it just says killing in general is wrong, that you should never do it under any circumstances ever. And there are a few North American theologians who try to explain what this model is. For example, Harold Lindsell says that God protected key manuscripts so that we can still have inerrant text. Carl Henry also says that the original texts are inerrant and have minimal errors. Clark Pinnock defends that the intention of the inerrant and the inerrancy of the intention and meaning of the text as we have them, but not to their specifics. Basically meaning that we don't know exactly what they mean, but we can make a good guess. Also, those who are not qualified to be, or are not qualified theologians have a very hard time explaining some of the things that the Bible says, but it's not really okay in modern day life, like slavery and the treatment of women and gays and so on. Next is the historical model, which Wolfhart Panningberg is a very big figure in this type of model. Also, this picture is of the Greek pantheon, and I will get to that in a second. Basically, the idea is, rather than being what the Bible says, God is revealed through facts. Not the Bible, facts. For example, Jesus did raise from the dead. It's a fact. It's not a fact because the Bible said that, is just a fact. Also, history tests religious claims. The text made a good example of the Babylonians worshiping Marduk and how they never lost because that they worshiped this god who gave them victory, but ultimately they were defeated. And this is why I have the Greek pantheon right here, is because that the Greeks were a very powerful group of people, and they were eventually taken over by the Romans, who then adapted their religion and eventually became Christian. So that's why nobody worships these guys anymore. These guys are just myth and legend. But that is not to say that Christianity is still immune to history, because history has not ended yet. We still have a ways to go, but so far it has held up. And in the 50s, there was a movement called the Biblical Theology Movement, and it basically said that the Bible was more of a history book rather than a book of like fairy tales. So like the Exodus from Egypt didn't happen the exact way as it did in the Bible. It was more metaphorical and more legend. Like the splitting of the Red Sea is just not true. And The historical model, since it's, well, history, it's harder to say, no, this is not right, because, well, it's history. Last is the experiential model. And the proportional model and the historical model both come from outward sources, history and the Bible. However, the experiential model comes from within. Every person has their own experience with God. As the text says, it's more democratic than the other revelations. And because of this, the church is not very okay with it for a few reasons. One is that it undermines institutional power. It is not good for the church as a whole, since if everybody believed something different, because everybody has different experiences. And in the Middle Ages, because of a person named Montanus, if you were to have an experience of God, you were supposed to consult the scriptures or a bishop. One influential person in this argument is Friedrich, I'm going to butcher this name, but Schleiermacher. Something like that. I don't know. I'm not good with German names, excuse me. He developed a classical example of this, since that being that we all have different experiences with the same thing, with God. We all think differently.